Good morning, everybody. Steve here from The Varied Life, as you can tell over there. I've retired overseas. Me and my wife, we sold everything in the United States, threw stuff into a couple of suitcases, and boom, we retired. Not in Thailand, like we see over here. We retired in Korea, but Thailand is on our list as a plan B. And with that being said, I did a video when Thailand changed its its tax system to include remittances of funds into Thailand for tax residents. And it just kind of went crazy because now there's a bunch of people that are saying like, oh, I'm not going to go to Thailand. And oh, the tax system, it's still, there's a lot of details that haven't been explained. And with that, I've dug more and more into the situation. And it's kind of a tangled ball of twine. It's just been used and abused, and there is no real clear cut. There is some clear cut information, but there's still some stuff that's ends that are hanging out, and things can get confusing at times. So I kind of wanted to make another follow up video to the tax remittance rules for Thailand, and yeah, hopefully this will clear some things up. With that being said, there's a lot of stuff going on, and overseas countries are finding out that they can make some more money off of people like me and maybe you if you retire overseas by charging more fees and, all money's got to change hands. So usually it's that pay to play comes into the situation. So either you have to have a certain amount of money in a bank, or you have to have a certain amount of pension or source of funds, of retirement funds through, a pension or investments or so on and so forth, state retirement system or federal retirement system, military retirement, things of that nature. And then you have 401ks and other retirement vehicles which produce you money that you've invested in over the years. So some countries will do that, or a combination of both, of the pension and the investments as a source of income for a total amount. You might have to put money into that country's banking system, have an account where that money brings in obviously interest, and they make money off of your money, and it's all a fiat money system anyway. But there are these requirements, and that is really interesting. Now, when we're talking about Thailand, this comes into that as well. So we're going to look over some information and try to look. This is going to be clear as mud in some places. In other places, it's going to be really clear. And the context of this is for U.S. citizens. So we're going to jump right into this. Okay, first thing we're going to take a look at here is this right here. This is Thai Immigration, Thai Tax, btisolutions.co, and I'm not affiliated with this website at all. But it does have a lot of good information. And even down here, it says this post was not written by a tax professional and none of the following content is legal advice. Get it? Okay. Thailand's revised tax code is evolving and developing situation, and new information is still coming forward, so details in this article are liable to change. So contact a tax professional. The mere thought of paying more taxes, it doesn't fill anybody with joy, and the revised tax code, according to this article, says that it's not this bad, regardless of whether you're a retiree, a digital nomad, or a working professional. And who's going to be charged, who will be taxed, and how much are you going to pay? Long gone are the days of finding a place where you pay no taxes in some way, shape, or form, death and taxes. Now, there are some countries, I guess, where you don't pay taxes at all, but they make up for it in other ways. So you're going to pay to play. The revised tax code, and basically what has happened, it says here that the code is simpler than most expats realize. Only one thing has changed. The law was established to close a 40 years ago in 1987. The law stipulated that you were exempt from paying tax on foreign sourced income if it was remitted into Thailand a different year than it was earned. This means that if you earned $30,000 in rental income from a New York property in 2018 and you transferred it to your Thai bank in 2019, that income was tax exempt. The that's kind of interesting because now we can play the shell game and we can start moving stuff around and not get taxed. The revised rule says that any foreign sourced income, savings, or earnings, this is different than pensions and, state pensions, retirement funds, stuff like that, remitted to Thailand after January 1st, 2024 is taxable. Again, savings and earnings. So we're talking about money that's in savings, money that's in 401ks, money that's in the stock market, things like that. Is subject to some considerations outlined in this article. It's important to note that the law only applies to money brought into Thailand. Money earned abroad and kept outside of the kingdom isn't taxed here. That's good to know. What's more, any of your savings or earnings from 2023 earlier is exempt. So they're going to have kind of like a grace period. What this means is if in 2023 you made $80,000 in consulting work from clients abroad and had $20,000 in savings, you can remit that money to Thailand today tax-free. So they're giving you a year leeway. But if you earn any amount of money from those same clients this year, in other words, 2024, that income would be subject to tax upon remittance to Thailand, depending on some of the factors. So again, this is very different because we're talking about you're working outside of Thailand and you're bringing that money in, which is very different than pensions and things like Social Security and stuff like that. Now it says Thailand is going to have common reporting system. They're going to check that, which basically is a reporting system of all the money that goes from to and fro, and they have access to it to see the details, balances, deposit details, proceeds from the sale of financial assets, dividends, and interest earned. In other words, they're trying to track down or crack down on, I guess, people who are trying to commit tax fraud by not paying their taxes. Cut down on tax evasion. Is the revised law tax targeted at expats? And the answer, according to this, is no, believing that the government is searching for another way to take their money. However, this is highly unlikely, and basically this was intended for wealthy Thai citizens who earn money abroad in stock markets, bond, property, and other assets and use the loophole of remitting in a different year to avoid paying taxes. Again, this is kind of the shell game. You make the money overseas and then you say, okay, well, I don't want to make tax, so if I bring it in this year, I'll be taxed. But if I bring it funds that I got last year, I'll bring that into Thailand and it won't be taxed. And so they'll always operate in a year behind in remitting funds into Thailand and thus using that loophole to get away from paying tax. Well, now they're closing that up. Though expats will be affected by this law, its enactment isn't personal. More developed countries have similar tax laws. It's not an unheard of policy shift, depending on your situation. We'll start with the very basics of who is taxed. Whether or not you pay Thailand's tax generally comes down to three factors. One, you're a tax resident. You must be considered a tax resident is one who's defined by one key criteria, which is that you live in Thailand 180 days or more per calendar year. Then you're considered a tax resident and may be required to pay taxes on your foreign sourced income and savings. So that means that you're still working and you have savings and 401ks and so, investments, things like that. It's not talking about pensions like Social Security or state or federal pensions or military pensions. Then it goes on and says money you bring into Thailand. You're only taxed on foreign-sourced income and savings. So in other words, my pension, and let's say my military pension, let's say I'm at the age where I can draw Social Security, those things would not be taxed, but foreign-sourced income as reported through that CRS, like I sold a house in the United States and I made profit off of that could be, and remitted that into Thailand, that could be taxed. Okay, so yeah, and again, you need to get the advice of a tax professional because this is still growing and evolving and so on and so forth. If you keep money in your savings and investment accounts abroad, it's not taxable, so that's the good thing. This is an important point to keep in mind because it creates an opportunity to control your tax burden, which we'll talk about later. Your income is over 120,000 Thai baht or $3,400 per year. While most expats reading this article will remit more than that per year, it's worth noting that you won't be taxed if you're under this limit. Seriously, Social Security retirement is probably going to be $900 to $2,000, depending on how much you made and worked and all that stuff. Probably somewhere within there, so it's going to be more than $3,400 per year. So this is just kind of an interesting thing. That you won't be taxed if you're under this limit. I don't know anybody who could live on $3,400 per year, so I don't think that's a deal. So I don't know. Working homeless, I don't know. Thailand has a progressive tax system, meaning the more you bring in, the higher the rate will be applied to those remittances. So which income is taxable? This is really interesting. Considerations for retirees, and that's kind of who we're talking to, the people who are looking to retire overseas, digital nomads and other expats. Not too concerned about digital nomads. Maybe if you're not retired or you don't meet the retirement age or you're not getting an income, but you can work remotely, then there's those people as well. So yeah, this could be interesting. Talks about all income is taxable with a few exceptions. All income and savings remitted into Thailand is taxable. Income and savings, unless otherwise stated in a double taxation agreement or specifically excluded by the Thai Revenue Department. This double taxation agreement is very important. And talking from the point of an American citizen, somebody who is from the United States does have a taxation agreement or a double taxation agreement with Thailand. So if you pay taxes in the United States, you won't get dinged again by the Thai tax system. So that's very important. Typically, you pay tax once. You're unlikely to pay tax on foreign-sourced income previously taxed in your home country. So again, that double taxation agreement. So if you pay tax on some freelance work from a foreign client back home, you likely won't have to pay taxes on that income again in Thailand. That's very different. So that applies more to the digital nomads or the people that are retired but still have a side gig. Yeah, that can come into play. Now we get into the retirement thing. The retirees. Gotta love being retired. It talks about and it says their pensions and will it be taxed. It depends on the factors mentioned earlier, the double taxation agreement with Thailand, whether your pension is already taxed in your home country. In the United States, we'll look that up. I want to stress this again. If your pension was taxed in the U.S., it's unlikely to be taxed again in Thailand. So now here, what about Social Security for Americans? Here's some good news. Social Security payments to Americans are always tax exempt in Thailand, regardless of whether you bring the income into the Kingdom of Thailand. Yay, that is awesome. So that is good news. In the previous articles, when the Thai revamping of their tax system had a lot of people scared, and even people had asked questions and saying, well, what about Social Security? You're talking about any remittance, any funds being remitted into Thailand. So if I get my Social Security, I get it in the United States and, you taxed or whatever, and I bring it into Thailand, is it going to get taxed because I'm remitting it into Thailand? That is a question that has finally been answered. And unfortunately, back then when I did the first video, nobody could really answer that question, even though there was a double taxation agreement. So it's good to see that the details are getting ironed out and there's some common sense and Thailand's sticking to the double taxation agreement. If they didn't, that probably wouldn't go well for Thailand. And Thailand only has about 60, 65, maybe 70 million people, somewhere around there. 65 to 70 million people. Korea has like 52 million people. So if they did away with the double taxation agreement, that would pull out a lot of funds that Thailand gets from the United States and retirees because those people would just leave. Digital nomads and freelancers. Generally speaking, digital nomads and freelancers will have to pay tax on foreign sourced income unless you're covered under a DTA, double taxation agreement, or you've already paid tax on it in your home country. This applies even for nomads granted a visa through the privilege program, assuming you stay in Thailand more than 180 days. Any freelance income earned locally and always has been taxable under Thai law. So in other words, if you go to Thailand and you're saying, hey, well, I'm going to work and I'm going to do freelance work in Thailand and I get paid, that's going to get taxed. If I open up a restaurant, a bar, Airbnb or whatever, you're going to get taxed in Thailand. You're going to pay that tax. But again, you're going to be under a different visa system than retirees. So the good news is this article shows and clears up a lot of misconceptions and a lot of holes and questions being answered that people were asking, saying, well, what the heck's going on? Any remittance of any funds into Thailand? It was crazy. Working professionals, we won't talk about that. And I will post these links in the description box for everything that we're looking over. Other types of taxable income. Now, here's another rub. Outside of what's already been mentioned, below are 3 types of income that expats have been concerned about. All 3 are taxable under the revised tax code unless they are exempt with a double taxation agreement or taxed in the country of earnings. And that is investment income, rental property income, and sales of overseas property. So again, in the United States, say, for example, we had our house, we lived in it for more than 2 years, and we sold it at a profit. That profit, according to the IRS, is tax-free if it's $250,000 for the individual, $500,000 per married, at least at the time when we sold our property. That could have changed, I don't know. But yeah, so that was tax-free. So could that be taxable? Yeah. Is it exempt with a double taxation agreement? Again, you'd have to get a certified tax professional in Thailand to take a look at this as somebody who deals in deep with this. But I would think if I'm exempt from taxes in my country, then it should be exempt of taxes in Thailand because of the double taxation agreement. I don't know. Again, that's some interesting information to dig into. And it might be something just to leave the money in a bank and just let it sit and grow interest and so on and so forth, and use your pension or social security money, and you bring that into Thailand, as that is non-taxable for U.S. citizens. Talks about the tax range, exempt, and it's a tiered system and so on and so forth. And you can see 5% is, $8,500, 10%, 85 to 14.2, 14.2 to 2140, 400. So it goes through percentages all the way up to 35%, which isn't bad. Now, there are ways to be exempt from the revised tax law. There are always loopholes, and it's not really a loophole. It's just there's ways that, you don't have to pay the tax. And the first one is stay in Thailand less than 180 days per year. Now, I've talked to some people that travel and live predominantly, they're expats and digital nomads, and they've talked about this. They said, well, that's easy. I'll just stay in Thailand 179 days, and I'll go to some other country and live there for the remainder of the time. So, there's that. But again, you got to look at the country that you're going to, what are their tax laws, and so on and so forth. But this is a good way that you can be exempt from that tax law. The second one is to get a long-term resident visa. And speaking of visas, there is one type that automatically exempts you from Thailand's revised tax code, the Board of Investment's long-term resident visa. If you obtain this visa, you'll do not need to pay tax on foreign-sourced income under any circumstances. This is huge because before asking these questions, people were saying, well, what about the long-term resident visa? Is that going to, they going to pull the rug out from everybody's feet? Even if you regularly remit rental or investment income or a pension to Thailand. So this is great news. If you get the long-term resident visa, your income, your investment income, rental income, and your pension to Thailand will not be taxed. So that's something you can learn more about the LTR visa here, and we'll take a look at this after we do this, because I don't want to get that squirrel thing going on. Learn about your country's double taxation agreement. This is very important because, again, when the new tax system in Thailand came out, there was a lot of people are saying, well, what about the taxation agreement that the U.S. has with Thailand? Does that change? And for some reason, Thailand couldn't just say, no, we still have the DTA with the United States. Don't worry about it. They couldn't even do that. So that's why it was so concerning to a lot of people, is that they're proposing this big tax change, and they couldn't even answer the question of saying, hey, it's only going to be in certain areas. It's not going to go, we're not going to do away with the double taxation agreement that we have with the U.S. and other countries. That would have done a lot to quell the fears of people that were looking to retire overseas, and Thailand as possibly being one of those places. It just kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth when you're like, oh, we're revamping the tax system, and guess what? We're not going to answer any questions, and we're just going to let it hang out and drama. It was drama. It's really interesting. So if your home country has a DTA with Thailand, you will be able to avoid paying any taxes associated with this revised law or receive a tax credit. So again, you're going to get a credit. So in other words, let's say if you pay, I don't know, this is just an example. It's not what it actually is. If you pay like 15% tax and then Thai says, okay, well, you got to pay 20%. So the difference is 5. You got to pay that 5% on income, or foreign source income or whatever it is. That would be the difference of the tax. Just hypothetically, it's not any real example, but there is that tax credit that you could get for the initial, 10% or 15% or whatever, and that difference would be 5%. Does that make sense? Okay. Thailand has DTA with 61 different countries. Right there, 61 different countries. Assuming your home country has one with Thailand, you can view it here with tax professionals to learn how they will impact you. And again, I'll put the links to this article so that you can review that. Some DTAs are currently being renegotiated. In other words, it's just their time to go over the information, and most of them just rubber stamp it and continue on. Use of an international credit card to pay bills in Thailand. This is interesting as well, and usually with other countries that you retire in. Income and savings is only taxable if you bring it into Thailand. So how could you live here while not bringing money in? Well, one way is using an international credit card and then paying that card through an account outside of Thailand. Bear in mind, the tax code is still evolving, so using an international credit card in Thailand may still count as taxable income at some point. They haven't nailed down the details of this, but if you're paying, it's like the return on investments. You're spending the dollar to make a dime. Is it really worth it? I don't think so. I think you should just leave that be. But then again, I'm not the king of Thailand. Recommend talking with a tax professional to intend on using this strategy. But you should know that if you use a credit card in overseas transactions, some banks will charge additional fees for using that card overseas. And even in Thailand, if you go to the ATM and I'm going to pay the bill or bank or whatever it is, you might have an additional fee with that. Some banks I've heard that will pay the fee for you, so that's an attractive use, so that you will get their credit card and stay with that bank, and they can make a bunch of money off your money. Again, other things to look into. Gift money to your spouse. They even have this in the United States. While this strategy is unlikely to be completely eliminated, it can significantly reduce it. In Thailand, you're allowed to gift up to 20 million Thai baht, which is $571,400, to your spouse tax-free. That means if you're close to moving into a higher tax bracket, you could gift money to your spouse to avoid it. That's an interesting thing. So for the people that have a Thai wife, if you have a lot of money and you don't want to go into that next tax bracket and you trust your wife, you can gift that amount. And I don't know if that's a one-time gift or a yearly gift. So say you and your spouse are freelancer with all clients based abroad. So in other words, we're talking about digital nomads or somebody who's living in Thailand but gaining income through a business that they do overseas. If you're earning 60,000 a year and your spouse is making 80, you could gift 3,000 to them so you stay within the 25% tax bracket. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, saving taxes is good. With the extra $3,000, your spouse will still be within the same 30% tax bracket. You've reduced your tax and kept your spouse's virtually the same. So again, there are little things that you can do. It's not illegal, but if there's a way to not pay as much tax, it makes sense to jump on that. So, and if you trust your wife, move forward with competence, talks about this. When we talk about long-term residence in Thailand, the LTR visa, this is a 10-year residency and work visa that is intended to attract financially independent or highly skilled expats in Thailand. It basically hits three people: successful individuals able to invest in Thailand, professionals working remotely, overseas experts working in Thai businesses, institutions, or agencies. And permission to live and work from Thailand for 10 years, includes a spouse and up to 4 children, a one-time 50,000 baht visa fee, which 50,000 baht, what is 50,000 baht to USD? So how much is that? So that comes out to about $1,400. So that's not too bad. Visa fee, 90-day residence reporting reduced to 1 year, which is a really good thing there. And do we actually get that on screen? Yes, we do. So, like, for example, here in Korea, there's a reporting that we have to do. In some countries, it's every 30 days. Some countries, it's 60 days. Some countries, 90 days. So you have to actually fill out a form or go to some place or go online and update and say, yeah, I'm living at this address, blah, blah, blah. Here in Korea, it's only if you move from one place to another that you have to report your new residence within 14 days. So there is no every 90 days I got to remember, okay, now I got to contact immigration and let them know where I'm living. But yeah, reporting reduced to once a year. That's a real good thing there. And actually, I think it should, the way Korea does is that if you move to a new location, then you should you should report that to the immigration office. I don't think there's a need to do it every 90 days because then that's unnecessary work. No need for reentry permits, fast track service at Thai airports, exempt from foreign worker hiring quotas. This is kind of interesting because, like, if you live in Thailand and you retire there, I know a lot of people will have a gardener or a maid that comes in and cleans in. You have to hire locals and so on and so forth, which is good for the economy. But you're exempt from that. But if I could get somebody to come in and clean and do the landscaping and yard work, I'm all for it. 17% personal income tax if working for a Thai company. And it talks about the eligibility, global wealthy citizen, have at least $1 million in assets. Ouch. Have a personal yearly income of $80,000. That's kind of rough because $80,000, let's see, 80,000 divided by 12, what are we looking at per month? $6,666 a month. Invest at least $500,000 in Thai government bonds, foreign direct investment, or property. Yeah, that puts a lot of people that I hang around with out of this type of system. Person yearly income of at least $80,000. Again, that's or have a personal yearly income of $40,000, invest at least $250 in government bonds. So yeah, this long-term visa thing, you're going to pay to play. Work from Thailand as a global professional, highly skilled, and that's pretty much what you're looking at there. So, and there's the process. So for the people that I've had some people contact me and say, hey, well, all you need to do is get the Thai, long-term resident LTR visa, and then you can stay for 10 years. And it's like, do you realize how much money that is? We're talking about almost $7,000 a month. It's about $7,000 a month that you need to make to be able to do that and have a personal yearly income of at least $80,000 or 40,000 and invest 250 in Thai government bonds. I don't, in my circle of friends and acquaintances and people that are kind of like me, military pension, social security, things like that, you're not going to be making this type of money. If you are, God bless you, you're awesome, and you killed it, and you could probably do this. But yeah, for the majority of us that are looking for an inexpensive way to retire because you don't have a lot of money, I mean, if I was making $6,666 a month off of retirement, I wouldn't need to leave the United States to go retire in an overseas country. It just doesn't really make sense. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Even $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year isn't too bad, because then you're looking at basically, $333.33. But with $250,000 in government bonds or foreign direct investment or property, now the question is that $250,000 in property, can that be a retirement home? Because then that would be doable. So there's some questions to ask about this on this Thailand long-term resident LTR visa, especially, because I know more people can make about $3,500 a month, because they have a military pension, they have Social Security, maybe some other investments, so they can make that $40,000 a year and invest $250,000 buying a property. Because they sold their house in the United States. So that is kind of doable. So for, initially it was kind of like, yeah, it's again, this can work for a lot of people who have those funds. But again, we're talking about people that have a pension or just Social Security. You might not be able to make that $40,000 a year. And again, it depends on the pension and your Social Security and how much you get and so on and so forth. And let's say if you can have that amount there, but you don't have the $250,000, again, it's, at least there's some option there. So anyway, now that we've been sidetracked by Thailand's long-term visa, which could be doable for many people and maybe not so much others, expat talk. Try this again. Hold on. Expat Tax Thailand. Say that 3 times fast. So this is another interesting thing. It talks about the common reporting standards and things that we talked about before. And one of the things that we found in these questions comes down here is U.S. specific. Are Social Security, U.S. government, military pensions, and 401k or similar accounts potentially liable for tax? Here is the double taxation agreement. In the U.S., the double taxation agreement, it specifically states that U.S. government and military pensions are not taxable in Thailand. So we're good to go. If you got a military pension or you have Social Security, they are not taxed in Thailand. 401k and similar accounts, however, are taxed in Thailand. And you can use any tax paid on them as a tax credit if they are remitted to Thailand. So that right there answers a lot of questions. There's some other things in here. Let's see if we can find, what was the other one? Social Security will be taxed. No, it's not taxable. Retirement. Where's the other one? Foreign source income. Again, talking about income. There is that. If you're spends more than 180 days in Thailand, then yeah, you can get taxed for that. Where is the other one? I'm a U.S. resident trading options for income and I'm moving to Thailand soon. Will I be taxed twice by USA and Thailand when staying over 180 days? If you transfer your investments to Thailand, you may be subject to a capital gains tax. This is a question I was wondering about, not because I'm doing this, but just asking questions in foreign source income, because you still have people that are working and doing side gigs and doing investment in stock markets and shorts and puts and calls or whatever that tax stock stuff is. Any tax already paid can potentially be used as a credit against tax owed in Thailand. Remitting funds to Thailand from investments would classify as an accessible income source. So again, there would be a little bit of taxation there. And let's see, gift tax, we talked about that to family members. You may give 20 million to family members, ascendants and descendants, and 10 million Thai baht to anyone else without tax gift. The gift tax rate starts at 5% over this. It is recommended that if you gift assets, you seek advice, as it's a complicated process. There was one other thing on here that I was looking at. No, that's not it. Visa, Swiss Bank, no. The retired expat pay taxes if it's more, and again, income remitted, and we're not talking about pensions, again, the double taxation thing. I think that's where a lot of problems came into play. Oh, here it is. Do U.S. citizens who are resident in Thailand on a retirement visa need to file taxes, i.e. no income in Thailand but receive regular bank transfers into Thailand? So in other words, you're getting Social Security, military pension, state, federal pension, things like that. My income is all from selling shares or collecting dividends from my U.S. brokerage account. Okay. So your retirement age, but all your money comes from your stock portfolio, dividends, buying, selling shares. I think I pay U.S. tax on capital gains and dividend income as a matter of course, but I remit that about $200,000 per month to Thailand as funding of our family of four. This is classed as foreign source income, and capital gains needs to be filed through Thailand. Again, there's a difference between funds that come from pensions, Social Security, things like that, versus income earned, like doing stock market, dividends, and so on and so forth. Even though that you can retire off of dividends, this is a question that I was wondering about too, talking about dividends. Thailand tax residents must pay taxes on foreign sourced income remitted to Thailand. And again, playing the stock market and doing the dividends, that is classified as income from a foreign source. This means that you're considered a tax resident, defined as someone who's more than 180 days. You must include income remitted from abroad to your annual tax return and pay taxes on it. However, to avoid double taxation, paying taxes on the same income both in Thailand and the country where it's earned, Thailand has tax treaties and will allow for tax credits or exemptions. So again, depending on how much taxes that you have to pay, what you paid in the United States, what you have in Thailand, if there is a difference, you might have to pay that, but you will get credit for the initial tax that you paid in your original country. It's important to consult a tax professional. Don't take anything I say. Consult a tax professional because they can help you. Just like if somebody came to the United States, was doing business and had to pay taxes, or is trying to retire in the United States from another foreign country, you would want to get a tax professional to help you out. And the same thing here. Anyway, let's see what else. I think there was one more. Oh, how much money can I transfer into Thailand? Depends on regulations of sending and receiving banks, applicable laws. Generally, for personal transfers, most banks and financial institutions allow significant sums to be sent. Hundreds of thousands of dollars is not uncommon. However, very large transfers, probably talking in the millions, you might need additional documentation to comply with anti-money laundering regulations. In the United States, anything is like over $9,000. If it hits $10,000, then it's reported to the IRS. Oh, what are you doing with this money? Well, we experienced that here in Korea. And so when we went to our bank, U.S. bank here in Korea, on the military base, we said, hey, we're pulling out $12,000 for buying a car. the bank said, well, yeah, we need to report this because it's over $10,000, and when are you going to be using the money for it? Oh yeah, we just got here and we're buying a car. And they're like, oh, okay, and done deal. When we got the money to buy our apartment, well, this is a little bit more than $10,000. What are you going to be doing with this money? Oh, this is for the down payment on our apartment. And when we got the rest of the money, oh, this is we're buying the apartment, and so on and so forth. They fill it in, click the box, and boom, you're good to go. No, we didn't experience any additional taxes because of that. It's just they just want to know that you're not breaking bad. The Thai government does not impose a limit on amount of money that can be received from overseas, but transaction over a certain threshold may need to be reported to the Bank of Thailand. Again, check with a bank or financial institution for limits and requirements. Again, the professionals. U.S. expats pay taxes in Thailand. Yeah, we talked about this. Again, it goes back. There's one. That is. I think that is it. Gift tax, taxability. Our Thailand tax rules on overseas credit cards. We talked a little bit about that. Currently, it's not taxable. So again, it's kind of a little break. You can pay for your utilities and living expenses with a credit card if you want. So that's still a thing. I have saving. Here's another interesting one. Is I have savings that has been invested or earned interest in a U.S. bank. When I bring this back into Thailand, I'm bringing an already taxed savings I earned in Thailand, or am I deemed bringing a subsequent investment gain that might be taxable? And again, I think this is going to go back to the double taxation agreement. Fixed deposits are taxed on capital gains as made and remitted to Thailand. You'll have to declare this on your tax return. There may be tax credits available if tax has been paid in another jurisdiction, depending on the DTA between that country and Thailand. So again, you're looking at if you already paid capital gains tax on the investment income or the interest that you earned on a CD or your bank accounts or whatever, you will pay taxes on that. You'll have to look and see if there's any difference, and you might have to pay the difference, but you won't have to pay twice the amount that you did, one being taxed at capital gains at 27-30%, and then pay that again in Thailand. Again, it might only be the difference, and it depends on the amounts. So I think that's about it as far as the tax stuff. There's a lot of stuff. So anyway, it's got a lot of information from different countries and so on and so forth. So it really gets interesting when we're talking about taxation, when we're talking about retiring overseas, and you're always going to have to jump through some hoops when you retire overseas, whether it's in Thailand or Korea and I'm in a special case because Korea isn't really retiree friendly as Thailand or Philippines or other countries. The reason I get to stay here long term and retire is because my spouse is Korean. So we're able to have a long-term visa. But with that, you're always going to have some type of immigration bureaucracy. You're going to have to follow the requirements of reporting. Every time we move, we have to report and say, hey, within 14 days, we're moving from this place. This is our new address. And you have to do that. Otherwise, it's not good. Some places have it, like Thailand, every 90 days, you have to report this, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I would think I like Korea's the way that they do things. That it's the address that you're at, and if you haven't moved there from years, you don't have to update it. It's a thing. Now, when we do the renew of our long-term visa, our F1 and F4 visa here in Korea, when we renew that, which is I think every 2 or 3 years now, then you have to update the address and let them know, yes, we're still at the same address, because it's the same form, age and name and all of that stuff, your alien resident card, all of that stuff, you got to have the most up-to-date information. So But yeah, there's always going to be requirements and different requirements for different countries. They're not all the same, and you need to learn how to do those. So, getting with a tax professional, getting with an immigration lawyer, a trusted immigration lawyer on all of these things is a great way to minimize the stress that you can get when you retire overseas. And the thing is, like when we came over here to Korea, there was people that were saying, we hired an immigration lawyer. We came here on a tourist visa, 90-day tourist visa, because we wanted it. We knew we were going to stay overseas. We just didn't, we're about 99% sure it was going to be in Korea. And then what we ended up doing is we submitted for our F1 and F4 visas here, and that puts a stop to your visa, your tourist visa. It puts it on hold. And then we had to wait, it was like 2.5 months, and then it got approved, and boom, then we got our long-term visas. The good news is that if you're in a similar situation as us, you can do it the way that we did it, or you can get your F1 and F4 visa prior to coming to Korea so you don't have to wait 2.5 months like we did. But, we wanted it out. And at that time, we weren't getting some real good service and information, so it's like, let's just do it in Korea. And the wife found an excellent immigration lawyer here in Korea that is close to Camp Humphreys and Osan. And matter of fact, their office is in the same building as Korean immigration. So they are up to date on all of the rules and changes. They've got a real good working relationship with the Korean immigration office, and I just can't say enough good stuff about them. So if you're interested in that, send me a PM, and I can send you the picture of their credit card, not their credit card, but their business card. Let me see if I can find that. No, it's not there. Let's see if I can run through and I can find this. I'll just post it up on the screen. Is that it? No, that's not it. Not it. There it is. Okay. Let's see if we can bring this on the screen. Yes, we can. This immigration office, and they don't speak English, but that right there is the immigration office, and they did a great job for us. And again, like I said, what they ended up, they're located in Songtan, which is right outside of Osan Air Base, which is about 20 or 30 minutes away from Camp Humphreys. We're able to put our submit and fill out and do all the information that we had to do for our immigration here in Korea. And they don't speak English, they only speak Korean. So there's that little hurdle, but the wife spoke Korean. And my wife found this immigration office and it just clicked. Great service, explained everything, minimal trips to doing, I think the wife had to get some fingerprints at a local police station, but other than that, everything. And for the F1 and the F4 visa at the time, it was somewhere around $500. And depending on inflation, and this was like a year and a half ago, prices might have gone up. But I was thinking, man, this could get expensive, and I could probably do this myself. And in reality, I could do this myself, but it would require multiple trips. Sometimes some government offices don't give you all the information because maybe they don't know or they forgot. But these people are really squared away as far as what are the requirements, what paperwork needs to be filled out. They do all the legwork, and then boom, when it's time to submit your application, they're with you when you submit the applications for the F1 and the F4 visas, because their office is in the same building as the immigration. So they just go down a few floors and they're right there, standing right there next to you. And here's the paperwork, here's this, they got it in the right order. All the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, or the T-goods and neons are T-gooded and neoned. So everything's in order, and boom, you pay a little bit of money, and next thing you know, your application is submitted. And they kept us updated on any other information that came. And then they also help us with our renewals. So we just go ahead and use them, and it's worth the money. And yeah, you could do it on your own, but I'm retired. I can pay somebody to do that now. I don't want to waste time anymore. So anyway, I don't get anything from recommending these people at all. They just gave us real good quality service. So if you're interested, there's that information there. So anyway, yeah, that was some real good information. They are awesome. So I'll just leave that up there. So yeah, there will always be some type of regulations or requirements that you have to meet for immigration. There's different ways of doing banking. There's different way of paying your bills, and different apps, and the language barrier that you got. And just even though my wife's Korean, was born and raised in Korea, when we came back after being gone for up 10 years, last time we lived in Korea is when I was stationed here in the military, and we left in 2002. From then until, a year and a half ago, a lot has changed. So even though the wife speaks Korean, we've been doing everything the American way for banking and shopping and Amazon and this and that and apps and phones and, driving and taxes and all of that stuff. We've been Americanized. So when we got to Korea, what we used to know was basically outdated. And now it's kind of like, so it's having to relearn for both the wife and I. So be aware of that stress. If you're in a situation like us where you have somebody's a foreigner, somebody's a Korean citizen or has Korean ancestry, and you come to Korea on an F1 or F4 visa, don't think that your Korean spouse who speaks, reads, and writes Korean will totally understand how to do everything, because everything is so different, especially if you've been living in the United States for, 2-3 decades. So again, there's going to be some hurdles. There's going to be some frustration. Just kind of let it go and take some time. Be patient. Don't get frustrated. And that will go well for you and your significant other. And I think that applies to any other country that you go to as well. There's always going to be the unknown. You're going to do things that you didn't do before, or they're done differently, and it's new and it's exciting, and it can be stressful and frustrating all at the same time. And that can be tiresome. But once you get down to where you're settled in, that's where the retirement comes in. So don't have this, I say this from our perspective, don't let the little bumps in the road and having to get used to the new ways of doing things in a foreign country dissuade you from your retirement, because there's going to be an adjustment period and everybody needs to adjust in some way, shape, or form. And once you get through that adjustment period, then you get to where you can, okay, I'm going to sit back and relax and enjoy my retirement. And yeah, that's where it really comes into play. So you're going to have times of stress and adjustment. It is what it is. So, but for us, it took a little bit longer with our visas because we had to sit around and wait for 2.5 months. So in other words, we had to find a place to rent for 2.5 months. We had to buy groceries. We didn't have a car because we couldn't buy a car. We could have rented a car, but we chose not to do that. So we used taxis. And so we were living out of suitcases for 2.5 months. And that's a little stressful. And it's like, seriously, when are we ever going to settle down? And we were in the good thing was we were in such a small 1-bedroom place. We stayed in Airbnb, and then we stayed in a 1-bedroom efficiency apartment. So that way, when we finally got to the apartment that we're in now that we purchased, this place seems huge. So, and then, being able to unpack your suitcases is always a good thing. And then you can settle down into the routine that you want. You can go check out things in the country that you retire in and do some day trips, some weekend trips, whatever it is. And you can do it at your own pace. So it's just that initial adjustment period and learning how to do things that can be a little frustrating. So anyway, so that's the information that we have for, taxes in Korea, or not Korea, but Thailand, the tax laws, who pays what is being taxed, the whole 9 yards. And again, I'll put the links to all the pages that I referenced in the description box down below. So anyway, I hope this clarifies some of the information or the missing information, because I've had people contact me saying, you're wrong. And it's like, no, I wasn't wrong. And a lot of people just didn't know. Even the Thai government, when they were asked about the double taxation agreement with the United States, in proposing this new tax system, they were silent on the issue. So no wonder people were scrambling, and no wonder there was drama going on. So yeah, and I'm not telling people not to retire in Thailand and to go to some other country, but as I said in the previous video, things change at a drop of a hat, and you're going to have to go through some adjustments, and that happens in everybody's life. But the fact that it was so disjointed and so misinformed, and they were just so quiet on so many levels in regards to this new tax situation in Thailand, it was really concerning to a lot of people because they couldn't answer a basic question, like the double taxation agreement. Are pensions going to be taxed or not? Thai government was like all quiet. Oh, we're redoing it and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, any funds remitted to Thailand, well, what does the word remittance mean? And that means any money that's brought into Thailand. Well, does that include pensions and Social Security? And, they could have done a lot better job of clarifying what was going to stay, like the double taxation agreement, military pensions, state and federal pensions are not going to be taxed, Social Security is not going to be taxed. They could have quelled a lot of fears by putting that information out, but they didn't. And so that caused the uproar and the drama. And now I still have people contacting me and saying, oh, you're wrong and blah, blah, blah. I was just going off of the information that was provided by the Thai government on Thai government websites and Thai tax lawyers that were scratching their heads saying, yeah, we're not really sure, because the government doesn't even know at the time that they gave the information. It's like, we're going to do this, but we're not going to tell anybody. We're not going to say what's staying and what's good and what's changing. We're just going to say shit's changing, and yeah, we're just going to be quiet on everything else. So that caused a lot of drama. So anyway, hopefully this clears up a lot of information when it comes to Thailand, the new tax system, and so on and so forth. Foreign sourced income and savings versus pensions and, all of those things, Social Security and whatnot. So anyway, hopefully that clears everything up and you enjoyed this video. If you learned anything or found it useful in any way, shape, or form, be sure to like this video, consider subscribing. Would appreciate that. Even if you don't want to watch my videos, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. I would feel love if you subscribed and liked to the channel and this video. So, with that being said, I've rambled on enough. It's been an hour. Oh my gosh. People got on me about my videos being too long, but it's like, you know what? I'm retired. It is what it is. So we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Whew.